So now, let's talk about something serious. When is Alibaba gonna exactly delist? Delisting, delisting, delisting. That's all investors can think about whenever the topic revolves around Chinese-related equities. So initially, I think many investors were rather confident that the delisting will not happen because they either believe that the US regulators will either soften their stance or on the flip side, the Chinese regulators will comply. So over time, it seems like the entire delisting fear is currently escalated to an all-time high, with new amendments being introduced day after day, month after month, and the threats coming out from both sides of the aisle, where representatives or spokesmen are trying to toughen up their stance and start threatening the other side. So the entire kerfuffle actually started out when the HFCAA law was first passed in 2020. So HFCAA stands for Holding Foreign Companies Accountable Act. And this law was first passed in 2020 after the Chinese regulators had essentially repeatedly denied requests from the Public Company Accounting Oversight Board. They essentially wanted to inspect the audits of the different Chinese companies that list and trade in the United States. So the law actually permits that the SEC, which is the Securities Exchange Commission, to ban companies from trading and to be delisted from the exchanges if the PCAOB is not able to audit requested reports for 3 consecutive years. So to put things on a timeline, the law was essentially passed in 2020. So the latest that all these different Chinese companies can drag on till is probably at the end of 2023. So this is the current timeline that we are working with. And today, or at least when the video is being posted, we are already at the end of 2021. So we technically have around 1.5 to 2 years left to resolve this issue. So now, to give the US regulators the benefit of the doubt, they claim that it just furthers the mandate that Congress laid out and get to the heart of SEC's mission, which is to protect investors and to protect their interests. The US market specifically prides itself as one of the most matured and most liquid capital markets out there, with a huge amount of volatility and opportunities to raise capital because of one word and one word only. It's called freedom. So of course, I'm not against protecting investors. In fact, I think a good amount of regulation is needed to protect the layman. But the degree of intervention depends specifically on the jurisdiction and the maturity of the markets and its participants. So if we were to really go to the heart of protecting investors, I think there are many areas of concerns, such as the pump and dump penny stocks that you see all over the place on YouTube. And there are tens and thousands of alternative coins, or some of you might call it coins, that promise you the next humanity's future. So what about protecting the interests of investors there? So I'm sure that the regulators might already started looking into it, but it seems like the media doesn't care at all. The layman doesn't care as well. So when dealing with China, it's called protecting investors. When dealing with coins, you guys need to wise up and learn from your mistakes. And oh yeah, let's not forget, this is a free market economy. So I can understand why many people are speculating that, hey, they're essentially weaponizing this or weaponizing their capital market as a political tool to further their agenda on the negotiation table. And you can't really blame them for that explanation or for that speculation, right? Anyhow, double standards or not, it's just a way of life. So let's just accept that for a matter of fact. So in my humble opinion though, it does seem like China is keen to establish a new equilibrium and to work together with the US regulators again. So I'm also pretty sure that China have also seen the benefits of foreign capital injections in their domestic companies and more importantly, their local economy. Furthermore, who would not want to use other people's money to build your own country? Essentially, you have nothing to lose. So it's a no-brainer. That said, I can understand why China is so afraid of this idea of capital corruption, and I use the word corruption very cautiously, and henceforth why the entire VIE structure was even born in the first place, which is why both parties have to come to new terms again after a new rounds of negotiation. So I did allude previously that the Chinese regulators have already expressed their interest to negotiate, but had also shown their resolve that they were not afraid to call back companies like the Didi scandal. So the message from the Chinese side is quite clear. They are implicitly signaling that, hey, the US is no longer negotiating from a position of strength or a position of superiority. The message from the US side is also quite clear. They want to keep the narrative and the optics that they have been and will continue to be hard on China, making sure that they comply with this so-called international rule of law and international standards in the name of protecting the rest of us, like how they always do. So as of the recording of this video, I'll still hold the opinion that, hey, delisting is highly unlikely as long as both parties achieve what they set out to, which is namely for the US to look tough and superior, while China also budging to certain requests to ensure that the US regulators have something to answer to its people and more importantly to its government. So it's also solely contingent on where this new line will be drawn and whether China is agreeable to this new line and whether they would like to comply with it or not. So recently, a reporter also quizzed the China Security Regulatory Commission on their views of Gary's statement, and Gary is currently the chairman of the SEC. So the spokesman actually alluded to the fact that, hey, in the past few years, the CSRC, which is the China regulators, and the Ministry of Finance of China have proposed to the US regulators joint inspection solutions for several times to address the remaining issues in the supervisory and the enforcement cooperation. So they did not think that the report that was released by the PCAOB was objective, and they essentially tried to downplay the efforts of their willingness to cooperate. And the Chinese spokesperson also floated the idea that the dialogues on the audit oversight between the Chinese and US regulators are currently ongoing and yielded positive progress. So positive or not, the feelings have to be mutual. And the Chinese view on this matter might just very well be an unrequited love if the US regulators do not budge and do not care about whether this progress is good or not, if they have a certain narrative that they would like to keep. So like I suggested, it seemed like the speculations are right in line with how it looks like. So the ball is evidently in the US regulators' court. So it solely depends on how far and how tough do the US regulators want to look in front of the world while they help us as all these innocent citizens of the world uphold justice and be the gatekeeper to help protect gullible investors like us. So this is definitely not the first time, and it will not be the last time that this kind of tensions picks up again if there are some disputes arising from both countries again. So even if it does not concern the capital or financials market, because let's not forget, everything is a bargaining chip when you're on a negotiation table. So some of you have been quite curious, why do I own Alibaba shares in both the US and the Hong Kong exchange? So if you were to ask me, and if you really want just a peace of mind and to buy and forget, you can essentially just park all your funds in 9988 shares. That said though, some of you are concerned that what will actually happen if your US BABA shares are delisted. So one of two things can happen. So it's either number one, it starts trading over the counter, or number two, it can be completely delisted. And for those of you who only have access to the US market, will lose total access to buying Alibaba. So for my specific circumstances, because I have access to both markets, it does not affect me to a large extent. I don't really care where I buy my specific shares because they are fully fungible, and one BABA share is equivalent to 8 9988 shares. So on top of their fungibility, because they track each other's prices so closely, in the event that Alibaba really delists from the US officially, I can just sell my BABA shares and just convert all of them to their Hong Kong counterparts by converting to Hong Kong dollars and just buy it from the Hong Kong exchange. Of course, I might incur some transaction costs and stuff like that. So in the event of an official delisting announcement, I'm quite sure that the Hong Kong price will crash alongside in the short term as people rush to the exit, especially those that probably might not want Hong Kong dollars exposure, or they are just essentially uncomfortable with the uncertainty and do not like to hold Hong Kong shares. So hence, this short-term artificial downward pressure will also follow suit. And if you do not have hundreds and thousands of dollars in Alibaba, it might actually be more cost effective for you to just sell from the United States and just buy back in the Hong Kong market. So personally though, the only benefit that I enjoy from buying the US share is just that it's of a lower quantum if I wish to dollar cost average with a much smaller cash outlay, because there's no minimum shares, or at least the minimum share is only one. While in the Hong Kong market, the minimum amount of lot is actually 100 shares, which is works out to be around 3,000 Sing dollars. So with that, I hope I cleared up some of the questions surrounding why I own shares on both exchanges. And do share with me in the comment section down below, what do you think of this entire delisting debacle? Also, Moomoo is running a Christmas activity until the 31st of December 2021. So where you get a free Apple share and $40 of cash coupon when you make your first deposit amounting to around 2,700 Sing dollars or equivalent. So you can also stand a chance to win an iPhone 13, an AirPods 3 and many more during the limited time rewards promotion. So you can use my referral link down below in the description, and you will also get 180 days of unlimited commission-free trades and real-time market data. And I'll see you in the next video, but more importantly, I'll see you on the moon. Goodbye!